Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight to it. So today's lesson, we're going to be going over Ezekiel, the 16th chapter, like we talked about last lesson. And we're going to continue our analysis on the marriage parable that we first went into in Matthew, the 22nd chapter, and how it ties to the rest of the scriptures and how it's showing the Most High's love for his chosen people, the nation of Israel, and how it cannot be talking about any other people. And the symbology of a wife, husband, a marriage covenant, aka a testament, old and new, that's both reserved for the children of Israel. So let's just go ahead and get started. I don't want to overtalk it. Let's get Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 1.
It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 1. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations.
So this is the Most High instructing Ezekiel to cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. I don't believe we've ever gotten these two precepts on the lesson, so I wanted to grab these real quick. Some classics. Let's get Isaiah, the 58th chapter and verse 1.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 58 and verse 1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins.
So the prophets were called to show the people their transgression. In today's age, you're supposed to be quiet about iniquity, about transgression. All right, it says, lift up thy voice like a trumpet. Now you're expected not to say anything. If you do, it's quote unquote hate speech, right? It's, discrimination, all these different things they do. You're supposed to just willingly witness iniquity, witness sin, and all the abominations that we see in today's society, and not say anything about it. But the prophets were called to do the exact opposite. All right, so that's why the Most High is telling Ezekiel this in Ezekiel 16 and 2, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations. And you see Jerusalem being likened into a woman again. All right, Jerusalem to know her abominations. All right, let's get the book of Micah, the 3rd chapter, the 8th verse.
The book of Micah, chapter 3 and verse 8. But truly, I am full of power by the Spirit of the Lord, and of judgment, and of might, to declare unto Jacob his transgressions, and to Israel his sin.
That's the only way you can clean up, if you know what you're doing wrong. All right, if this is not declared unto our people, how will we know that we're wayward, that we're going backwards? That's the only way. All right, so that's why we're here right now, so we can, cause these abominations to be known into her, into Jerusalem, into our people, the nation of Israel. All right, well, let's proceed to verse 3.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 3. And say, thus saith the Lord God unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite, and thy mother an Hittite.
All right, so it's a lot to uncover here. All right, so it says, thus saith the Lord, the Most High, unto Jerusalem, thy birth and thy nativity is of the land of Canaan. Why does it say that? Because Israel was born in the land of Canaan, essentially, as a nation of people. That's where we established our first kingdom. The first kingdom was established originally what they called the land of Canaan. All right. And, no matter how deep you get into the scriptures, this is the things that you want to know. You want to kind of remember this. The land of Canaan. The Israelites came into that land and invaded it essentially due to the Most High's commandments. And now that land is known as Israel. It was already predestined to be Israel, though. So it's not like they con.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Well, weren't we promised that land in the book of Genesis, if I'm not mistaken?
Con. Yeah, we were promised that land filled with flowing milk and honey, right? So that's exactly what we did. But nativity, they got this. I was looking. Did y'all see that story where they had that little baby Baphomet? Let me see. Yeah, this little thing right here. Boy, look at that. The Satanic Temple installs baby Baphomet display at Illinois State Capitol. So, they get more and more out with it. Reason I brought that up because I remember, wow, that's wicked. I don't even want to show that. But the reason I brought this up is because I remember Esau talking about, I remember Esau talking about, this was making mockery of the nativity of Christ. That's apparently this little painting or whatever of when Yahushua was born. So nativity just means, we got a definition here. Nativity refers to a birth of a person as well as the facts surrounding their birth. So likewise, this is what the Most High is telling us about the children of Israel, their birthplace and the facts around it. We're born in, in the land of Canaan. Thy father was an Amorite and thy mother an Hittite. What does that mean? So an Amorite and a Hittite are basically Canaanite. They're part of the Canaanite nation. All right, Canaanites. All right. So this is an Amorite. We're not going to go deep into it or nothing, but one of the peoples of East Canaan and beyond the Jordan, dispossessed by the Israelite incursion from Egypt. All right, so that's the Amorites, nation of Canaan. So this is a nation of Canaan, and pretty much the same thing with the Hittites, the descendants of Heth. Read that in the scriptures there, if I'm not mistaken. They're in Genesis. Genesis mentioned in Genesis, the 15th chapter. But why is it, to go back to the original point again, why is it saying that your father is an Amorite, your mother is a Hittite? Because normally your parents are who groom you, right? When you're a child, you follow their customs, their mannerisms and things of that nature, and you're most likely going to follow behind them. And that's what the children of Israel did in the land of Canaan. All right. We were commanded to go there and, not follow any of the customs of the people before us, which we're going to read everything I'm saying, but we didn't. So the Most High said, in mocking us per se, your father's an Amorite, your mother's a Hittite. So basically, you're the offspring of Canaan. All right. That's how bad we were going off. Again, just picture it like you take what you do here now in America, but you move to Africa, one of these, Kenya or something like that. The next thing you know, you outside with a spear chasing a baboon or something. All right, that's basically what we did. We went to a foreign land and started taking on the customs of the people before us. All right, let's get Deuteronomy Chapter 1. We'll just start at verse 1 and go on down.
The book of Deuteronomy Chapter 1 and verse 1. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan in the wilderness, and the plain over against the Red Sea, between Paran and Tophel, and Laban, and Hazareth, and Dizahab. It's like it.
You know what? Don't even do verse 2 because of this. Well, because we got some points that we trying to get to here. All the scriptures are for edification, but I'm just saying to get to the point. Let's go to verse 3.
Verse 3. And it came to pass in the 14th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spake unto the children of Israel according unto all that the Lord had given him in the commandment unto them.
Okay, keep going.
After he had slain Sihon, the king of the Amorites, which dwelt in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, which dwelt in Ashtaroth in Edrei.
All right, so after he slain Sihon, the king of the Amorites, all right, king of Bashan, Slot. All right, and keep going. We get to the point soon. Keep going.
Verse 5, on this side Jordan, in the land of Moab, began Moses to declare this law, saying,
No.
The Lord our God spake unto us in Horeb, saying, ye have dwelt long enough in this mount.
Keep going.
Turn you and take your journey and go into the mount of the Amorites and unto all the places nigh thereunto, in the plain, in the hills, and in the vale, and in the south, and by the seaside, to the land of the Canaanites.
The land of the Canaanites. Keep going.
And unto Lebanon, unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Okay, and then give verse 8.
Verse 8, behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto you, which sware unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give unto them and to their seed after them.
So you see that our fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but we went off into such deep idolatry that the Most High said, no, your father is an Amorite and your mother is a Hittite. That's who birthed you. That's who you're the offspring of. All right, again, your father and your mother instruct you and they raise you. All right, that's the idea there. And we were performing so many of their customs, it's like we were born there. All right, that's what the Most High is telling us. And I also got this too, so we can see that this is the land that we originally went into after Egypt. So Moses, through the power of the Most High, delivered us from Egypt, went into the wilderness, we spied the land, and then we took it over. And then we established our kingdom after the time of the judges. All right. And that was in the land of the Canaanites. Again, no matter how deep you are in this thing, you can remember that. Just remember the land of the Canaanites, that's the original land of Israel. All right, but that was the point there. Let's keep going to verse 4.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 4. And as for thy nativity, in the day thou was born, thy navel was not cut.
Hold on. So in that day thou was born, thy navel was not cut. Interesting. Think about it. What is that telling us? That Israel never was cut away from these nations of people. And by the way, these nations of people will be what we call today, quote unquote, Africans. All right. And I'm saying quote unquote because African, that's not a nation of people. That's not even an original name of that land. So how can we call everyone that lives in Africa African? All right. But anyway, the navel was not cut. So when you were born, you were brought forth in this land and you never went away from your father, the Amorite, your mother, a Hittite. Just because you were born there doesn't mean you were supposed to stay, doing the different things that the Canaanites were doing. We'll get specific in that later on. All right. But the navel was not cut. All right, keep going.
Neither was thou washed in water to supple thee. Thou was not salted at all, nor swaddled at all.
So neither was thou washed in water to supple thee. Because we know when you're born that you have to be washed with water or the blood is still on you. So likewise, when we were born in the land of Canaan, meaning we went over and took over the land to establish our kingdom, we weren't washed, but with what? With the word. All right, we weren't keeping the statute, laws, and commandments because we were still attached by the navel, meaning we were still attached to the people that lived there. Because again, there were 7 nations of basically Canaanites there, or Hamites, or what you would call today African nations there. So picture us going to Africa, to a specific country. We're supposed to be taking it over, just starting completely new. But then we go over there and then we get to talking to them. Hey, brother, what you over there doing? Eating barbecue elephant, my brother. And then we go over there. Now we eating, elephant trunks. And it's way worse than that, though. I'm just using that as an analogy because we were in, all types of sin. It's not just as easy as that what we were eating. But, well, that's part of it too. But, I'm just trying to paint the picture there of what we did. And that was not salted at all. Salt lost its savor. Where shall it be salted, right? So let's get another classic for the water. Let's get John chapter 3 and verse 5.
The book of John, chapter 3 and verse 5. Yahweh shall answer, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born of water and of the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of the Most High.
Except he be born of what?
Except a man be born of water and of the Spirit.
You have to be born of water and of the Spirit. All right. The reason why you can tell someone straight up that they need to keep the statute, laws, and commandments, and then they mock you or they ignore it or just tell you the law is done away with, is because they haven't been born of water and of the Spirit. All right. Your spirit has to be reborn. Like Yahweh Shai said in this chapter, you have to be born again, meaning your spirit. All right. It's like a whole new birth. But when we went into Canaan, we didn't do that. All right. We stayed attached to the navel. All right. We were supposed to get away from that, but we didn't. All right. And did I have John 6? Slot John 7. Yeah, let's get this. John 7 and 38.
The book of John, chapter 7 and verse 38. And it reads, he that believeth on me, as the scriptures have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water.
So the scriptures, the word is likened to rivers of living water. All right, because you take on this water, you'll never be thirsty again. Like Howard Shah said, all right, and it's constantly flowing. Your knowledge, your spirit is constantly growing. It's constantly flowing. All right, what do we call that? A current, because it's constantly moving. All right, out of your belly, which really in this context, meaning your mind. All right, your spirit. But we didn't do that. We weren't washed with the water. All right, and I didn't get, might as well get Ephesians 5 as well. Let's get Ephesians 5 and 26.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 5 and verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word.
That's that washing that Israel did not do. All right. And I'm building all this up so we actually get a picture of what's going on here. We don't want to just read the scriptures and not, know exactly what's going on. All right. We got to think of it from a little standpoint because this actually happened. This is real history. All right. Your same so-called black man and woman that's walking around right now. This is who this was referring to. All right. This is who the prophet Ezekiel is speaking of right now. All right. So let's go back to Ezekiel 16. Now we can move on to slide to verse 5.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 5. None I pitied thee to do any of these unto thee, to have compassion upon thee, but thou wast cast out in the open field, to the loathing of thy person, in the day that thou was born.
Cast out to an open field. Wow. Let's keep going.
Verse 6. And when I passed by thee and saw thee polluted in thine own blood, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live.
Come on, keep going.
I have caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great, and thou art come to excellent ornaments. Thy breasts are fashioned, and thine hair is grown, whereas thou wast naked and bare.
So what is this referring to? This is referring to when Israel became great as a nation of people. Or I've caused thee to multiply as the bud of the field, and thou hast increased and waxen great. All right, because we became a great nation. All right, I believe I normally pull that precept in 1 Kings, I want to say the 11th chapter, where it talks about how King Solomon was above. Oh, no, that's when he had already went off. He was above all kings. What's the verse? I believe it's in this chapter. Yeah, and get that real quick. Verse 23.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 10 and 23. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom.
For riches and for wisdom mean we're waxing great, just like we just read in Ezekiel, the 16th chapter, all right, in the 7th verse. King Solomon, if he's the king of Israel and he exceeded all of the kings of the earth, that means the children of Israel exceeded all the nations on planet Earth. All right, and I brought this out before. Like, you know, they always talk about Rome and things of that nature, different kingdoms like that, but they don't talk about the children of Israel. All right, we were the end thing at this time. All right, we had all the riches, all the wisdom, all the glamour, all the glory. All right, especially all the vessels of gold, the garments, armor, spices, horses, mules, you know, and our kingdom was beautiful and vast. All right, we have respect into all nations. Actually, King Solomon was, you know, he was in league, he was in partnership with the Canaanites at this time, what they call in history the Phoenicians, with Hiram, different kings like that. But anyway, point is, we had it going on, man. We had it popping. That's the point here. We had it going on, but we, you know, we about to read what we did, actually. Just keep going.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 8. Now when I passed by thee and looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swear unto thee and entered into a covenant with thee, saith the Lord God, and thou becamest mine.
Thou becamest mine. The Most High looked at the woman Israel, like we read here, to know her abominations. He looked at the nation of Israel, looked at our people, the so-called black man and woman of the captivity, and chose her and said, you are mine. Use my woman. Like your uncle say, your women's. Use my women's. All right. So that's what the Most High did, declared his love for the nation of Israel. All right. The time was the time of love. That's the time of rulership. All right. The time of love is a time of rulership for the kingdom of Israel. Imagine not having to answer to the so-called white man. All right. Imagine pretty much every job you go to, a so-called black man or woman owns that establishment. All right. And instead of going to the so-called white man courts, it was our courts. All right. Everything in righteousness according to the law. That's the time of love, time of rulership. All right. I spread my skirt over thee and covered thy nakedness, meaning cover your sins, or covered you with righteousness, with a garment. All right. Without a garment, you get cold. You out in the cold. You lost. And entered a covenant with thee. What's another word for a covenant? a marriage, essentially. All right, so this is hearkening back to Matthew, the 22nd chapter. All right, that's when the Most High declared Israel as his wife. And that's why we see that parable. All right, nobody else, no other nation of people had this great of detail poured out about them and how the Most High chose them, how he felt about them, and said, thou became his mine. You can look over this and not, process all that, but, that's what we're here to do, to make sure that we thinking on the scriptures, how, it's supposed to be a thought of in your spirit. All right, so, another thing real quick. I feel like I'm on a tangent, but it is what it is. I was just hearkening over this, and it just occurred to me, like, the whole vibration of planet Earth pretty much goes by how the Most High is feeling about the children of Israel. So, I mean, this is how you know that we run the world, because if Israel is doing right, keeping the statute, laws, and commandments, we in rulership, everything is all good. But if we not, that's the only way somebody else has the chance of rulership. So we really, man, like we, Con, did my audio go out?
Nigga.
Okay, Con. It's sometimes that screen goes up and it says that the what's saying interrupted. But anyway, point is, yeah, man, we had it going on. And what we do determines the fate of every other nation on planet Earth. All right. So that's how important it is to keep the statute, laws, and commandments. You got to think of it like that. And then our people out here talking about the law is done away with. Can't be. Not if it's this important, it can't be. All right, let's get over verse 9.
Verse 9, then washed I thee with water. Yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and anointed thee with oil.
Anointed with the Holy Spirit. All right. And being washed with the word. Because when you're born, you're going to have blood on you. All right. But we were washed. Keep going.
Verse 10, I clothed thee also with broidered work, and shod thee with badger skin, and I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk.
This is just referring to the garments. All right, keep going.
Verse 11, I decked thee also with ornaments, and I put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck.
Keep going.
And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thine head.
All right, 13.
Thus was thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was of fine linen, and silk, and broidered work, and thou didst eat fine flour, and honey, and oil, and thou wast exceeding beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom.
So again, we had it going on, man. Decked with gold and silver. Man, that's why the so-called black man and woman, that's why we like to be decked out right now. You see our forefathers and foremothers were decked out. That was decked with gold and silver, with chains, man, grills, things of that nature. We've been doing this thousands of years. Raiment was a fine linen. Our brothers still rocking linen, man. Silk. We did eat fine flour, honey, and oil. You can't keep Jake out of a fine restaurant, man. That was exceeding beautiful. And thou didst prosper. Prosper already in itself means to do exceedingly well into a kingdom. All right, keep going.
Verse 14. And thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty, for it was perfect through my comeliness, which I have put upon thee, saith the Lord God.
In that same chapter we were just reading in 1 Kings chapter 10, we saw how the Egyptian queen came all the way over just to see, how we got down. That's her. She's a heathen. She was a heathen. All right. She came to see the beauty of the kingdom of Israel. All right. And she said, wow, this is even better than what I thought, essentially. I'm paraphrasing, but she said, wow, it's what I thought is nothing compared to what I'm seeing. I mean, that's how great we were. All right, keep going.
Verse 15. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty, and playedst the harlot because of thy renown, and pouredst out thy fornications on everyone that passed by. His it was.
His it was. I think we got this last lesson, but I mean, look how it was worded. Everyone that passed by, his it was. Remember, Israel is likened into a woman. So this is saying that every man, aka every other nation of people that saw the children of Israel, we went into their ideologies, their doctrines, their philosophies. All right, his it was. That's what that means. We laid down with him, for proverbially speaking. All right. Normally, when a woman lays down with a man, and when I say lay down in marriage, and you're together, the woman is going to most of the time take on the customs of the man. So if the man is going off, the woman gonna be going off. All right. Likewise, if our people, you know, we adhering to the doctrines of the other nations, we're gonna be in sin. All right, because we're supposed to be under our one husband, which is the Most High, also through his son. But we took on the customs of the nations. All right, let's keep on.
Verse 16. And of thy garments thou didst take, and deckest thy high places with diverse colors, and playedst the harlot thereupon. The like thing shall not come, neither shall it be so.
Keep going.
Thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and of my silver, which I had given thee, and madest to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them.
So when you see commit whoredom again, we had a covenant established. All right. And then we stepped out. What's another word for cheating? We call it being unfaithful, right? So we were unfaithful. Losing your faith in the Most High, unfaithful. You're committing whoredom, a spiritual idolatry, spiritual fornication. All right. That's what it means by whoredom. Don't take it literally, but as a nation of people, we committed whoredom. All right. By going to sin. This basically all means that we were sinning. We're going against the law. The Most High gave us the law, told us to keep it, and then we went off and still did, you know, complete contrary to what the Most High told us to do. Now, this chapter is kind of long. That's why I'm like explaining it instead of going to the scriptures, but we can just go ahead and start getting the scriptures actually. But again, this chapter is long. There's a few verses that kind of said what I was saying directly. So I was waiting till we got there, but I don't want to seem like I'm just going off my own thoughts here. Let's get Isaiah 66:13. I had this pulled up. Let's get that point real quick.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 66 and verse 13. As one whom his mother comforted, so will I comfort you, and ye shall be comforted in Jerusalem.
So this is harkening all the way back to verse 3, where it says our mother is a Hittite. So the Most High, of course, is a man. But sometimes in the scripture, you see him being likened to a nurturer like a mother is. All right, so we let the Canaanites nurture us. All right. Now, let's get Leviticus chapter 18. You can start at verse 1 and go to verse 3.
It's the book of Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances.
So you see that? A lot of the commandments were telling us not to do things that the Canaanites and the Egyptians were already doing. All right. So this is the Most High telling us directly not to follow the Canaanites, not to follow the Egyptians. But you also have to keep this in mind. We were in Egypt for 400 years, 430 years, if we add, all the time, 430 years. Think about, really conceptualize how long that is. If you in a country, you in a land that long, is very likely that you will keep the customs of the people around you. I mean, you even talk like the people that are around you, So it's very likely that you will do something like that. And the Most High, of course, understood that. That's why he told us not to do the customs of the people, all right, or the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, because that's the land that we went into. All right. But yeah, man, that was told us directly. And I meant to grab this when we were talking about the Most High loving Israel. Let's get 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 8.
The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 8. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on his throne, to be king for the Lord thy God, because thy God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore made he thee king over them, to do judgment and justice.
All right, so the Most High loves Israel, still does today, establish them forever, not momentarily, not just while King Solomon was king, King David was king, forever. All right, you don't see any other nation being promised to be established forever. The quote unquote New Testament didn't change that, or the new covenant, the new testimony, New Testament, new covenant, that didn't change. All right. The Most High loves Israel, the world of Israel. All right. And I had this map pulled up just to show this is the land of Canaan. This is the same place that Israel is. All right. When we establish our kingdom. All right. It says Canaan before Israel's conquest. Just to get a quick little visual here. For children of Israel enter the promised land. It's called the promised land because we were promised that land, like the brother brought out earlier. All right. Now I want to actually jump straight to this. Let's get 2 Kings chapter 21, and let's start at verse 1.
Book of 2 Kings chapter 21 and verse 1. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. Khan.
So, Khan. So Manasseh, we know that there's a tribe named Manasseh, but this is a king that was a king of Judah that reigned for 55 years. It says at 12 years old. To my understanding, that's just interpreted that way. He wasn't literally 12 years old, possibly 22 when he first reigned. But either way, 55 years. All right. Keep that in mind. 55 years. Go to verse 2.
Verse 2. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel.
So he did evil in the sight of the Lord the abominations of the heathen for 55 years. That means that all the children of Israel, well, to be specific, this was the tribe of Judah or the southern kingdom, because this is after the split. For 55 years, our people were going off. We were going off before this too, but 55 years. Now, remember, Israel is likened into a bride, a woman, and the Most High is likened into a husband, pursuant to Isaiah the 50th chapter. Now, if Israel is the bride and the Most High is the bridegroom or a son, now wouldn't you leave your wife if she was cheating on you for 55 years? Do you 55 years? You with her that long and she just stepping out every night. And then with different men too. She not just one dude, she just stepping out. She playing a harlot. Do you not see why the prophet Ezekiel was bringing us out this way? That we played the harlot, we committed whoredom, because that's what our people did. We were given specific instructions on what to do and what not to do, what customs to keep, what customs to not keep, what feast days to keep, and what pagan feast days, what they call feast days or festivals, what not to keep, what not to do. But we still did it for years. All right. And that's why Israel's likened it to, into a whore, for the lack of a better term, into a harlot. All right. Because all of those years of wickedness. And then another thing, imagine giving that wife everything. You done bought her a new car. You give her access to all your credit cards, your cash. You done brought her all the jewelry that she want. She got the gold, she got the silver, she eating at the finest restaurants whenever she want to, and she still step out on you. For years, man. You got to think of it like that to kind of put it in the perspective of what our people did at this time and still doing right now. That's what it feels like to the Most High. And this is just from a surface level perspective. I'm not claiming to know what the Most High feel like. I'm just saying, according to what the scriptures dictate to us about how the Most High views our transgressions, but he views our transgressions from the standpoint of, y'all, I gave y'all everything, anything you ever wanted, and you still just going off doing whatever. You know what I'm saying? You still got a Christmas tree in your house. Did not the prophet Jeremiah tell you in the 10th chapter to do away with that? And you still doing it. All right. So let's go back to, no, actually, did I want to get some more on that? Yeah, I definitely want to get some more on it. Let's get verse 3.
Book of 2 Kings, chapter 21 and verse 3. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah, his father, had destroyed. And he reared up altars for Baal and made a grove, as did King Ahab, king of Israel, and worshiped all the host of heaven and served them.
Wow. So Hezekiah was a righteous king. He destroyed all of the places, the groves and images. Hezekiah got rid of all that. But his son went smack off. All right. Reared up altars for Baal or Baal and made a grove. All right. If you look up a grove, it's basically like a just any place where you'll worship a pagan god. All right. Where you see like a kind of like an altar, or you set up a pagan god, an idol in whatever form, stone or a little idol, and then you set up candles over it and all that, what a lot of people do, today. So, and quiet is kept. A lot of these quote unquote Christians and people of that nature, they got a grove set up in their house and they kneel down, they worship these gods. All right, people that you know do that, and they just don't tell you because they scared to come out. But it's gonna come out more and more. Oh, there's a lot of witches out here, and I mean that literally. But it's gonna come out, it'll be revealed. All right. Anyway, as King Ahab did in Israel, worship all the hosts of heaven, meaning the stars, like we talked about last time. Where does the quote unquote eastern stars come from? The worship of the goddess Ishtar or Ashtoreth. All right, the many different forms, Aphrodite, Venus, whatever you want to name her. We did all of that. Like, imagine the Most High created everything we know in existence, but we giving reverence to something else that's never taken a breath, that doesn't even live, that did nothing to contribute to all the Most High and His angels, the work that they did. It's an abomination. All right. And it's whoredom on our part. And that's why you never see the other nations, being told that they're off in whoredom, because that's what they do. You don't go to, for lack of better terms, you don't go to a prostitute and then, immediately start condemning her for the work that she do. If you know that's what she do. And she started as one, not something that somebody had to talk into doing. That's just what she do. A harlot is going to be a harlot. But we're not called to be harlots. We're not called to be, to dive off in the whoredoms. We're supposed to be married, this covenant into the Most High, thine husband. He said, "In thou is thine or mine." Right? Now let's get verse 4.
Verse 4. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord said, in Jerusalem will I put my name.
Con. So you tell me the children of Israel, they're just as important as any other nation of people, but the Most High put his name in Jerusalem. Did he take his name back? Did he, go to the courtroom? Well, I want to file for a petition to take my name out of Jerusalem. That never happened. So the children of Israel are still God's chosen people. All right, his name there is sealed, it's done. Both covenants for the children of Israel. Deal with it. Let's get verse 6.
Verse 6, and he made his son pass through the fire and observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger.
You see? Made his son pass through the fire. That's deep, man. Observed times and use enchantments like a lot of people deal with today. The quote unquote Africans or the Egyptians and the Canaanites, they were the first nations to really deal with what we call today voodoo and magic and things like that. They were the nations of people that, went into that heavy. That's why the so-called black man and woman still doing that, especially heavy in places like New Orleans and stuff. Con.
Hey, you even with that passing through the fire thing with these so-called Greek frats and the sororities, like that's an actual thing going on where like people actually crossing burning fire and burning sands.
And that's what that's in reference to. All right. That's pretty deep, man, because that's all Masonic. And if you were in one of those fraternities or sororities, then you know that, or at least if you come into knowledge and then you know about these things, you know that everything that you did was all Masonic. And what's Masonic or Masonry is Luciferianism, just hidden in disguise, at least to the lower members, because the higher members, they already know all this. All right, but exactly, that's a great point, Ak. And that's exactly what that is when you pass through the fire. On the right-hand side, you're reborn with the water, the word. On the left-hand side, you have to pass through the fire to be reborn. All right, and that's why they shave their heads. It represents being reborn, but on the left-hand path. All right, being purified by fire. That's what Tammuz means, if I'm not mistaken. Tammuz, purified fire. Perfected fire, to perfect, to purify. All right. So that's who you're giving reverence to, whether you know it or not. And why I picked Tammuz, this is a god that we worship. All right. It's the children of Israel weeping for Tammuz. Matter of fact, that's what they do in church, whether they know it or not. That's why you got that T up there, that cross. They weeping for Tammuz, women in church. But anyway. Back to the point. So we passing through the fire, observing times, like we still doing today, enchantments. All right. I saw this post on Facebook that went viral. I'm actually quote unquote friends with her on there. And I mean, this post had like 100,000 shares. She said, we got to stop letting white people tell us that witchcraft is bad. Our ancestors practiced witchcraft, is not evil. And that thing went viral, man. You know, that's the wickedness that we dealing with. All right. Like the prophet Amos said, you know, the woe to those that perceive wickedness as righteousness, and righteousness as wickedness. I'm paraphrasing extremely hard right there, but y'all get the point. All right, passing through the fire. Let's actually get that. Let's deal with that for a second. Let's get Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 21.
Book of Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 21. And it reads, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire of Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord.
So if you don't know, the Canaanites used to literally sacrifice their children to who they call Molech. All right. And if you look up Molech, it's like they basically made like a fire pit, and they would throw their kids in there to worship this God, this quote unquote God. All right. And that's why the Most High put this commandment here, because that's what the nations of quote unquote Africans were doing before us, the Hamites, which we're not the same people. It's how different we are. We weren't supposed to be throwing our children, sacrificing them to no doggone Molech. That's what it means by pass through the fire, thy seed, because they would sacrifice, you know, children. All right. And Molech, when you look this up, it looks just like that Travis Scott little head that he has. You know, if you went in that concert, you was basically passing through the fire. All right. Anyway. Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 31.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12 and verse 31. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord, which he hateth, have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters, they have burnt in the fire to their gods.
You see, that's a real thing that they did. Just picture that, man. You got 3-year-old that they literally just throwing in the fire, man. It's wicked. Wicked, man. All right, so let's get Isaiah chapter 50 and verse 1.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 50 and verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to is it to whom I have sold you. Behold, for your iniquities have ye sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away.
Where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. Again, when do you see any other nation of people being broken down like this? Where's the bill of your mother's divorcement? Right? Who, the Most High just not going to go back on his word. All right. This is deep, man. Because our people were divorced. Cut off that covenant. Again, if your wife's stepping out on you for 55 years, you're going to send her a bill of divorcement, man. You're going to put her away. The creditors here is referring to the other nations. All right. Or your iniquities, you sold yourself. So you did it to yourself. And we pulled this many times, but hey, it applies. So we're going to pull it again. Let's get Jeremiah 3:8.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 3 and verse 8. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I have put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also.
So this is what we read about in 2 Kings, the 21st chapter. All right. Judah playing the harlot also, meaning the southern kingdom. But we committed adultery and we're given that bill of divorce because we had a covenant established. All right. We had a marriage, supposed to be married, but we went off. So the Most High had to slide us that bill of divorcement. All right. I mean, and it's righteous because let's read Deuteronomy Chapter 24 and 1.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 24 and verse 1. When a man have taken a wife and married her, and it came to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he had found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house.
All right. So this is in the law. When a man, the Most High, has taken a wife, the children of Israel, and married her, now he's found uncleanness in her. Let him, the Most High, write her, the children of Israel, a bill of divorcement. Give it to her hand, like we just read in Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, verse 8, and send her out of the house of the Lord. That's exactly what the Most High did. It's right here in the law. So, was he not supposed to do the same thing? That's what a man's supposed to do. Let's get verse 2.
Verse 2. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife.
That's exactly what we did. We became another man's wife. All right. Consuming the other nations, their doctrines. That's what it means to become their wife. All right. So hopefully this is making sense. I mean, it was so many precepts on this. That's why we had to break it down to so many chapters, but there's so many ways to look at it. All right. And I had Genesis 27. Oh, I know I had that. All right. So let's get back to Ezekiel 16 before we close out. Like I said, this chapter is 63 verses. So we're not gonna get the whole thing, but let's see. Let's get verse 37.
The book of Ezekiel chapter 16 and verse 37. Behold, therefore I will gather all thy lovers, with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou have loved, and with all them that thou have hated, and I will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, and they may see all thy nakedness.
Thy lovers is referring to the other nations. Okay. The Hamitic nations, the children or not, sorry, not the children, but Edomites, Elamites, Moabites, Canaanites, whoever, whoever is not the children of Israel. That's our lovers, because we went into in communion and made a marriage with another man. All right, symbolically. And let's get verse 38.
Verse 38. And I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged. And I will give thee blood and fury and jealousy.
We read it in the law. That's what the Most High did. I will judge thee as women that break wedlock and shed blood are judged. All right, and wedlock doesn't mean quote unquote premarital sex. Must give it my tripping. Oh, so commit adultery. And really, while I'm thinking about it, now do I want to go there? I'll save that. I was about to go into what fornication really is, but we at the end of the lesson. I want to actually spend some time on it. So, before we close out, let's hit the points I wanted to hit here, and then we'll wrap it up, because I was remember the days of our youth. Yeah. So we see thine elder sister is Samaria. That's the northern kingdom. Where did it talk about the sword? Yeah, right here, verse 40.
The book of Ezekiel Chapter 16, verse 40. They shall also bring up company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones and thrust thee through with their swords.
So the lovers, the other nations of people, who does this also include? Who's being thrust through with a sword right now? We are. But who is the sword? All right, let's get verse 40 in Genesis, the 27th chapter.
The book of Genesis, chapter 27 and verse 40. And it reads, and by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck.
This is referring to Esau. The blessing that he received was a sword. Like we probably already know, but this is one of the curses that was put upon our people, that would be thrust through with the sword, taken over by the Edomites, the so-called white man today. All right, an inferior nation taking over you just because you decided not to listen to the bride. All right, well, it's like the bridegroom. All right, and then we'll get 60 through 63 and call it there.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 60. Nevertheless, I will remember my covenant with thee in the days of thy youth, and I will establish unto thee an everlasting covenant.
Everlasting covenant. Keep going.
Then thou shalt remember thy ways and be ashamed when thou shalt receive thy sister, thine elder and thine younger, and I will give them unto thee for daughters, but not by thy covenant.
Keep going.
And I will establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord.
Thou shalt know that I am the Lord, because the children of Israel are going to bethink themselves in a land where they were taken captive. All right, we're going to remember who our forefathers are. We're going to remember to keep the statute, laws, and commandments, and we're going to know the Lord. All right. So after the Most High told us, your father is an Amorite, your mother is a Hittite, all these different things, he still is telling us that he's going to have mercy upon us. All right. And last verse.
Verse 63, that thou mayest remember and be confounded, and never open thy mouth and more because of thy shame, when I am pacified toward thee for all that thou hast done, saith the Lord God.
All that thou hast done, saith the Lord. So the Most High is going to forgive his adulterous wife. All right. In that context. So we see the point here. Israel going clean off. We're married into the Most High. We established a covenant, through the mediator, the first mediator, which was Moses. He sprinkled the blood on the people. All right. Established a covenant. We didn't keep the words, all right, that we were supposed to keep, like taking the vows. We didn't keep them. Went off for years. Most High divorces, but he taking us back in, man. He taking us back in. And when that's done, it's never going to be undone again. That's why it says here in verse 60, an everlasting covenant. All right. And that's why in Matthew chapter 22, you see the Most High liken our covenant as a marriage. All right. And a bridegroom and a bride, like in Revelation, the 19th chapter. All right. It wasn't referring to any other nation of people. If so, you got to break down which chapter this, that was brought out at. All right. So unless brothers got anything else, that was pretty much what I wanted to grab. I yield.